Now available on Kindle, E-Steam No Good Deed. The Devilish Diva scares some stick-up kids straight in this action-packed E-Steam series comic. Get E-Steam No Good Deed on Kindle for 99 cents today. In a previous video, I said I was not feeling the creative teams on Milestone's relaunch of Static, Icon and Rocket, and Hardware. And after reading Milestone Returns Infinite Edition, I'm absolutely disgusted by what was presented in that comic. Because what was presented in that comic is a complete slap in the face to the late, great Dwayne McDuffie and the universe of great characters he created. And this whole new relaunch of Milestone practically betrays everything that Dwayne McDuffie created back in 1993 and gives us an SJW woke version of the Milestone characters that betray the spirit of those characters. And I was absolutely disgusted by the retcon of Static's origin to fill it with identity politics. Now, Static's origin takes place at the Big Bang, the event that practically shapes the entire Milestone universe and lays the foundation for everything related to the Milestone universe. And when Dwayne McDuffie created the Big Bang back in the 1990s, he understood that that origin needed to remain timeless. And the concept of a Big Bang taking place at a gang rumble was something that everybody could relate to back in 93 when Static number 2 cemented Virgil Hawkins' origin, and in 2000 when the Static Shock cartoon premiered. And that origin at the Big Bang is core to Virgil's character because it shows that Virgil had the heart of a hero before he even got his powers. Because in that Big Bang, as he's being bullied by Biz Money B and is looking to seek vengeance on Biz Money B because he's been given a gun by one of his friends, he then makes a choice, and it is that choice that defines Virgil as a hero, the same way Peter Parker found his definition when Uncle Ben told him with great power comes great responsibility, and realizes that once he confronts the burglar and finds out the burglar was the one who murdered Uncle Ben. So this is core to Virgil's origin, but your Reginald Hudlin doesn't really understand that this is a core part of Virgil's origin, and this is what defines him as a character, and it defines his character before he becomes a hero. And because he doesn't understand this, he instead wants to try to make things hip, cool, and relevant by making the Big Bang take place during a Black Lives Matter rally. Now, your Black Lives Matter, as I see it, is not something that's going to be historically relevant in 5 to 10 years, and it should not be the core focus of the Big Bang. I think the Big Bang should have stayed true to what Dwayne McDuffie established as a general gang rumble, because that's something every reader from generation to generation could relate to. And your Black Lives Matter, it may wind up a footnote in history that most people will forget about in a few years, and many black people in the black community, don't really go along with Black Lives Matter. So you're already alienating your audience by going out here and making the Milestone universe connected to Black Lives Matter, 1, and 2, you're dating your material the same way the Spider-Man comics back in the day were kind of dated when we heard about Flash Thompson going to Vietnam. You really don't want to date your stories by putting details in them that are really related to the time. No, a good comic book writer or a good writer, what they want to do is make their commentary about the times, but not really put so many details of an era in a place so that the reader can't relate to them. Examples of this are what Bruce Timm did in Batman the Animated Series, him and Paul Dini. They oftentimes featured a lot of tech, but they made it very general, whereas you had videotapes, but you also had 1930s style cars and clothes and stuff like that. And when you look at the stuff that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby established, they used a sliding scale timeline. They didn't really want to date their stories by making references to them, to a certain era. They wanted things in the stories to be relatable to every era and every reader. And that's an element that I use in my own storytelling, like stories like Isis, Temptation of John Haynes, and even books like The Thetas and other books that I do, like Eternal Night. Yes, they're set in a certain time, but there are certain timeless elements there that the reader can relate to and relate to their own life experience. And by making Static's origin connected to Black Lives Matter, not only does it really change the context of the story, it also changes the content of that story so that the reader, they're taken into a world of identity politics, and we're not focusing on this world of heroes and what motivates them to be heroes. So I really am not happy about them going out here and bringing Black Lives Matter into this, because Black Lives Matter, as I see it, they're their own political movement, and it really wouldn't have anything to do with these heroes being heroes. Just let the heroes have their big bang, and let the story, let these heroes come to life. Now, the big problem, again, with Static's origin is, again, this is something that is core to the Milestone universe, because this lays foundation to the entire Milestone universe. And not only is Static's origin important and core to it, but it also lays the foundation for the creation of the Blood Syndicate, because the Blood Syndicate get their powers at the Big Bang, and other heroes get their powers at the Big Bang as well. So making it connected to Black Lives Matter practically derails all of those stories, because again, when you change the context of the story, you change the content of the story. And another thing that really annoyed me about this whole changing of the context of the story is the fact that they took Hardware, a book that I thought had great promise, and then tied Kurt Metcalf to the conspiracy with the gas, because they are implicating Kurt Metcalf as one of the people who created the gas, and he's now, instead of him having his feud with Alva, which was separate from the rest of the Milestone universe, now he's directly connected to the Big Bang. Again, you're changing the context of the story, and that changes the content of the story. And having Kurt Metcalf directly implicated, this does not really fit organically, because his feud with Alva was separate from that whole situation, and his feud with Alva was about him getting his due. That story was about something every black man could relate to, and that story was about something every black man who worked in corporate America knows all about, dedicating yourself to getting this good education, getting this good job, and then wanting to get your due from that company. That's something every black man could relate to, and they could also relate to the whole concept of what people consider to be the angry black man at work, and all of that has practically been erased out of Hardware's story. And instead of us getting a man looking to get his due from the company he put all of his work in, we get a story of a guy who's on the run and scared of being implicated as related to the Big Bang, something that was never featured in the original Milestone comics, just like Static's origin did not feature him at a Black Lives Matter rally. No, all of these elements, they're not making these books relevant. What they're doing is making these books social justice books, and that's not what the Milestone universe was all about. Now, the other book that really irked me was Icon and Rocket, and in this version of Icon and Rocket, we're not really getting the Icon and Rocket I grew up with, And that Icon and Rocket, that was a fascinating story of an alien who came down to Earth, learned about life from a black man's perspective, experiencing racism and white supremacy, a man who went and worked to build his life up and learned black conservative culture, and then is challenged by a young black girl who grew up in the inner city. So we're getting a commentary on black culture and black life, and we're getting to see black heroes from the perspective of an outsider making his observations about black culture and the black community. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff there, but instead of us getting that, the new people who are working at Milestone, like your Reginald Hudlin, they want to turn Icon into a paternalistic, condescending person who thinks he knows better than other people. And that's not really what I would go out here and write, because as I see it, again, he's an outsider looking in, similar to what I write with the Isis character, who is the goddess next door. And as somebody who's walking on the earth, experiencing racism and white supremacy, they're looking at it, again, from the outside looking in, but they're looking for different approaches to being a hero and understanding that you can't come in here and do things a certain way. So you have one side who's showing you how things were from their outsider view, and you have somebody like Rocket who's the insider, but we're not really getting those dynamics as related to the relationships between those characters in this version of Icon. No, this version is, I know better than everybody else, and I want to do better and save the world because I'm smarter than everybody else. A complete betrayal of what everything Icon stood for and everything as related to the planets he came from, which were united and had a different frame of thinking. Again, we're losing all of this, and I believe we're losing a lot of heart as related to the Milestone universe, because instead of us getting these characters the way Dwayne created them to be, we're getting some social justice, identity, politics versions of these characters, and those social justice, identity, politics versions of those characters betray everything that Dwayne stood for and everything Dwayne created, and practically go out, when you change the context of certain things, you change the content of that character. And when you change the context of the Big Bang from a general riot that was about a group of gangs rumbling, which was something masculine, to a Black Lives Matter protest over a female that is feminine, we go from a riot being about something masculine to something gynocentric. And that's one of the big problems with this whole case of this whole Big Bang, is that it's coming from, again, Black Lives Matter, which was founded by 3 females, and we're not getting a context from a male perspective. And the original Milestone, again, was created by men for young men and boys, and this version is created to factually fit this social justice narrative. But those social justice types, they're not the ones who go out here and buy books. No, it is Milestone fans who go out here and buy books. Those millions of fans who remember the Static Shock show, those fans who remember the old Milestone comics, and these books do not stay true to the spirit or the heart of those old Milestone books from what I read in these previews. No, we're not getting those stories, because if we had gotten those stories, we would see what makes them a hero. And I'm deeply, again, disgusted by them going out here and retconning Static's origin, because that gun scene is key to his character. That is core to what defines him as a hero. And I'm also disgusted by them making Kurt Metcalf tied to the Big Bang, when Kurt Metcalf's issues with Alva were separate of the Big Bang, but later on, as they unfolded the conspiracy behind the Big Bang, they found out that Alva wasn't Alva, I think it was Dharma who was responsible for the Q juice. And all of these elements are just being taken out of context by writers who are emotionally invested, like your Reginald Hudlin, but they are not objectively looking at the material. And that's what it shows me how important a good editor is, because you have to be objective when you're looking at the material. Because when you're an editor, you're looking at the story from the reader's perspective and not your perspective. And Reginald Hudlin, as I've said before, is too emotionally involved in Milestone. He wants it to be a success so badly that he doesn't see he's undermining that success. What readers, as I see it, want, they wanted a Milestone that stayed true to the spirit of what Dwayne created. They wanted a Static that was going to be Static Shock Season 5, and they wanted a Icon and Rocket that was going to reintroduce the characters and show us the brother from another planet and show him struggling with racism and white supremacy as he was trying to navigate a course as a hero. And they wanted a Kurt Metcalf who was a black man who was frustrated about being in corporate America and then not getting his due and his respect. These were core stories as related to the Milestone universe that made me a big Milestone fan, but I'm not seeing these stories brought back for the next generation. No, what I'm seeing is them trying to push identity politics with these Milestone characters, and I'm seeing people who really don't have respect for these Milestone characters, because when I see Virgil Sawkins without his trademark dreads, that's a bit red flag for me, because when a guy gets locks, that's a sign that he's proud of his blackness. And guys that those locks were trademarked to Virgil, and that for them to take them off, that was really one of the things that irked me. And I wasn't a fan of Icon not wearing his trademark mask. That's also a core part of who he is, and I'm not happy about Hardware just being made into another basic guy on the run, because your Kurt Metcalf wasn't running, he was standing, and he was standing because he wanted to get what he was due. And all of these character stories are practically being compromised by your Reginald Hudlin and the creators over at the new Milestone. And the new Milestone is going to be one that sinks in the sand, because as I see it, this new Milestone is not going to be strong enough to compete with Concrete Comics. I mean, Concrete's Absolver blows the doors off what I read in Milestone Returns Infinite Edition, and Concrete Comics Acolyte blows the doors off Icon, and the whole Concrete Comics line is a lot stronger, and I don't think this new Milestone line is going to be able to stand up against stiff competition like Concrete Comics or Black Sands or many of the independent black creators I see stepping out here, like Raymond Leonard with his Agent Solo and many other black creators out here. I don't think this Milestone is going to stand for much longer, because while they have name recognition, they don't have the heart and soul of the original characters. And if you don't have that heart and soul of the original characters, these books are not going to last long, because people wanted to see certain elements to these stories, but we're not seeing the Milestone universe that was a classic. We're just seeing a knockoff version meant to sate the needs of many of these SJWs, but SJWs don't buy books from Milestone. No, diehard comic fans buy them, and your Milestone in DC blew a chance to reach all of those fans out here who are looking forward to picking up these books, because these books are not true to the heart of these characters or everything Dwayne McDuffie created all those years ago. Now, if you want to pick up some of my action-packed African-American fantasy fiction, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, or if you want to try my first comic, E-Steam No Good Deed, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos about comics, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April.